Resident Evil.
Now, is that the name of the movie or the film company that made you go see this at midnight?
Well, you know what? Come on, man. You got to hand it to him. I admit that even if this wasn't like, I guess it is Lionsgate, but even if it wasn't Lionsgate, who rarely screen their things for press anyway. Actually, I don't think it is Lionsgate. Never mind. Even if it wasn't Screen Gem, so I don't know if they screen their stuff for press or not. You can't blame them. I mean, this isn't a press type film. This isn't the type of film that you take people who try and look seriously at film and deconstruct it and pull all its pieces apart to analyze it really should see at all.
No. But you might not have a press screening in the afternoon just for press, but you might have a public screening where you get a bunch of people going like, man, that shit was badass. Y'all niggas got to see this.
I feel like I should respond to that, but I can't without using a word I'm not allowed to use. So I could do it like my Leon records. You negras need to come see this. No, I think that the Resident Evil series. Well, I don't even have to think. It's chapter 4. There's been like one a year pretty much, and they're obviously making money, or they wouldn't keep pumping these
That's
things
true.
out. And they're not super low budget either.
I was going to say, looking at the trailer for this one, it looks like they're putting more money into the sequels, which is rare. It used to be they would cut the budget. They would like slash it in half for each sequel.
It appears to be a license to print money on some level. And that's fine because, I mean, it is what it is. It's the McDonald's of sci-fi horror films in its own way. And there are times that I'm just like, I know it's bad for me. I know it's got no redeeming value, but nonetheless, I am craving it anyway.
Okay, I when you put it that way, I totally get it.
Yeah, I'm looking both ways before anybody sees me go into the theater, but I'm still going in. I would have actually paid to see this regardless of like reviewing it for the site, and that's because I have found, much to my surprise, that I'm actually a fan of the entire Resident Evil series.
No shit.
For the exact same reasons I just described. They are all trash. Now, even the first one, it's a pretty trashy movie. However,
I kind of like I said, I've only seen the first one all the way through.
Yeah.
And I by the end, I was like, you know what? I kind of like that. Like, I don't know that I'd pay to see it, but if it was on, I'd watch it again.
I guess what I like about them, as opposed to a lot of these film series that are bad, like Saw, but seem to have their own fan base anyway, is that they're not just repeating the exact same thing every story. Every movie is really different from the one before it.
You know what, man? You should be a lawyer because you were really making a good case for these. No, you brought up a really good point in that a lot of sequels, even of movies that are good, the sequel is just a remake of the first one.
Can you say Ghostbusters 2?
I guess I can certainly say Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ghostbusters 2. Yeah, but you're right. These Resident Evils, they're so different from each other.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it, because each one, as ridiculous as they are, and wow, are they ridiculous. I mean, plausibility is not an issue here.
Right.
You're going into it worried about whether or not something could happen in reality, or what was the deal with that character? They just came out of nowhere, then disappeared. If these are the things that are concerning you, then the Resident Evil series is not one you should be bothering with. But it is, once again, like I said, every film is so different. They're all bizarre. I mean, they're just, maybe part of it is just that they're so badly constructed that they seem strange, but they are. They're just off-puttingly laugh out loud weird at times.
So what's the premise on this one?
Okay, so what you've got is, of course, Mila Jovovich, or Jovovich, or however you say it.
I assume it's Jovovich. But...
Yeah, I think it's just Jovovich, but who I actually find to be one of the more appealing young actresses. I really like her a lot. It's too bad she picks so many crappy films to be in.
Yeah.
But
and I'm not so sure you can call her young anymore.
She's got one of those kind of engaging smiles, and it's like, I can't help myself. I like her anyway. But she is, and you got to admire her for sticking with this crappy series.
Well, her husband directs them all, so she ain't like she got a choice.
Well, I always look back and go, you know what? If you were talking to somebody who wasn't an actor and they were just giving you shit for starring in the Resident Evil series, all you have to do is look at them and say, bitch, I was the star of a theatrically released series of Hollywood films that all made lots of money. What have you done?
True.
Just saying.
Well, I mean, if that's your criteria.
If that's your criteria, but that's certainly a strong argument, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Resident Evil Afterlife picks up right after the end of the third film, where out of Vegas they've heard about this place that's supposed to be safe. Oh God, I thought I had it written down here in front of me and I don't. But there's this mythical sounding location in Alaska where
Asgard, Alaska.
yeah, right. Where they're sending out messages saying where there's no infection here, we have food, we have medicine, come. And so Alice,
Mila.
Yeah, sends her group of survivors from the end of the third film off into a helicopter to go. So at the beginning of the fourth film, we see one of the main enemies of the series, Wesker, who is, Albert Wesker, played by Sean Roberts, who is basically the most douchey, diabolical Val Kilmer ripoff you can imagine. I mean, this guy...
Skinny Val Kilmer or fat Val Kilmer?
Skinny Val Kilmer. Either he's not trying at all, or they told him, we want you to play it like a bad video game character from the early 90s, because he is just every word that comes out of his mouth is embarrassing. It's not just the bad words they've written for him, because yeah, he is like the ultimate cliche, but the guy is just like so very evil. He's, shooting guys who disagree with him, and stuff like that, who work for him. But Alice and her army of clones, because she got that, there's like hundreds of Alice clones now running around, all directed by Alice.
That's so crazy that it sounds cool.
I know. Who all have superpowers now. They all can, in the games, there's a thing that T-virus can affect some people where they mutate into giant horrible beasts, and some people just turn into zombies, and some people, very, very, very few people, just get, really incredibly powerful, and Alice is one of those really rare people. At least in the movie version. So she's, making shit telepathically explode, and she's in the Matrix. Let me just make no mistake, this is the Matrix. That Paul W.S. Anderson said, man, I love that Matrix film, and I finally have time to completely rip it off. And that's the first 20 minutes of this film, because it's Alice and her army of clones running through this giant underground facility in Tokyo, taking out with katanas and guns and throwing stars and anything, this weird array of weapons that she seems to have found in the post-apocalyptic world, to take out an army of black-suited, masked guards.
Ninjas.
Yeah, pretty much, for all extents and purposes, except military,
Okay.
They just don't want you to see their faces. They're killing hundreds and hundreds of people, but you never see a face.
So it's all Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
And so on her way to kill Wesker and to take out the place. Thing is that Wesker is actually, he's kind of smart, and he, of course, gets away, taking out not only the army of Alice's with him, but managing to remove the core Alice, Prime Alice, her own abilities. He tricks her and injects her with something, and pow, she's just normal Alice again.
No, this all happens in this movie?
Yeah, it's on the first 20 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah, okay, so this is the premise. Yes, I'm spoiling some things, but I have to explain this to you or you'll go listening to the rest of this review. Well, why didn't she just do this? Well, she can't anymore.
Okay.
Which is, I guess, why they did that, because otherwise they're like, shit, we made Alice like a god. How are you going to tell a story with her? Yeah, okay, so after all that, she somehow survives this situation I'm not even going to go into. I mean, this whole, the first of a list of many improbabilities. You're like, what? Okay. I just forget. This is Resident Evil Afterlife. I'm just keep watching. And she decides to go grab this plane that she got out of her ass and and fly to Alaska.
Hey, it's the apocalypse. There's got to be a bunch of planes just laying around.
Well, there are, but nonetheless, fueled planes.
What? and then know how to fly them.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is I can't remember what she originally did as a job in the first one, but I don't think it was pilot.
You have to appreciate the fact that in real life you have to go. You have to join the Air Force and then go to special pilot school to learn to fly a plane. Except in the movies or an X-Men comic, you just step into it, and it's pretty much like a car.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
I played an Xbox. Back in the day when hardcore gamers actually did know how to play Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is an exact copy of how to fly a plane.
Right.
I could believe that. There was a movie or two that used that joke, and it's like, okay, that actually is really, they look at that when you used to look at that if you went in flight lessons. Do you know how to play that game? Yeah. Okay. So I don't need to explain some of this stuff to you, because that was like a dead on.
Dead on, right.
Yeah. Nowadays, come on, man. You played enemy aces. That doesn't count. Where's the joystick? I don't get it. Is this dual shock or what? So she flies to Alaska, and there's a bunch of planes, and there's even the helicopter that, that she sent the people off, but they're not there. No one is there. And right before she leaves, she runs into one of the survivors from the last movie, played by Ali Larter, who plays Claire Redfield, who is one of the characters in the game as well, except she's crazy and she's covered in dirt and poo or whatever.
It's Ali Larter, of course.
And she's got, that was her revenge for being in Heroes. There you go, bitch. And she's got some sort of weird red spider machine type thing on her chest that apparently was injecting her with drugs and making her crazy. I don't know. So
that's some allegory for PMS, but go ahead.
I thought that's what I thought too. But so she knocks her out because it's Mila Jovovich. She's the hero. She's badass.
That's what she does.
You just shouldn't even fuck with her. I don't even know why you're bothering.
Right.
But I'm the supporting hero. Yeah, fuck you. You're just Ali Larter. I'm Mila Jovovich. And she takes her with her on the plane to go. I guess she has a list of cities to check out to see if anyone's there. And so the majority of the film, and like I said, we're still barely into the film at this point.
Jesus.
It moves pretty fast. The rest of it is she ends up in, L.A., which is totally just demolished. It's like a wasteland. There's hordes of undead roaming the streets. You're like, wow, zombies. I almost forgot that's what this series is supposed to be about.
That's what I was thinking watching the trailer. It was like, what happened to the zombies?
Yeah, they do pop up at some point, but they're really more of the setting than anything else. And she finds these survivors who have got a big, the traditional "help us" written on
Sure.
in giant letters on a rooftop, and she manages to land the plane on the rooftop and hook up with these guys. There's Boris Kodjoe.
Boris Kodjoe.
Yeah, he's from a television series, right?
Well, he just got a new J.J. Abrams new television series.
That's right.
But he's from a lot of the black family comedies and one of the Tyler Perry movies, I think. Maybe not, but. Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
Well, you've got him. You've got Kim Coates, who is from Sons of Anarchy. You've got shoot, I'm sorry, I had the whole list in front of me. I don't have it now. But anyway, there's a group of survivors,
okay.
and the lead one being Boris Kodjoe is Luther West, and he's an ex-pro basketball player, and he's ostensibly the leader, whereas Kim Coates' character Bennett is kind of the scummy ex-Hollywood producer guy.
Man, they just didn't stretch these actors at all.
Nope, not at all. And it's like one of those, why did you even land here if you weren't able to rescue us? I'm not quite sure. But it turns out that this thing that they've been looking for, this mythical place, isn't a place, it's a ship. And that's why it wasn't in Alaska anymore, because now it's off the coast of L.A.
Okay.
So they're like, okay, well, we were hoping you were sent from there because they've been broadcasting these messages. So anyway, that's really the beginning of the film, which is the second reel. The first reel is all like this real quick series of events leading up to this. The majority of the film, the bulk of the film, is taking place in this maximum security prison that these people have taken over. And there we get to meet Chris Redfield finally, who is Claire's brother and was in the original goddamn Resident Evil game.
Okay.
For some reason didn't show up till movie 4. And he's played by Wentworth Miller.
The guy from Prison Break.
Yeah, the guy from Prison. You know what? I was looking at him, and I thought he was Jensen Ackles from Supernatural. He's all covered with dirt and everything. I was like, oh, it's Jensen Ackles. I didn't realize how much those two look alike. And I didn't realize it wasn't him until he started to act. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's definitely not Jensen Ackles. That guy's not too good. Sorry, Prison Break fans. He just isn't. So from there, there's a long period of them just talking, of them hanging out in the prison, of them people looking like up and down at Mila Jovovich and Ali Larter, like, There's another girl in there who serves absolutely no purpose at all except to stand there and look good. But, the thing is, these characters, once things start up again and suddenly the zombies find a way in, and these are new zombies. These are zombies with, like, flower bursting tentacles coming out of their mouths.
So
and stuff.
They're not George Romero zombies, and they're not 28 Days Later fast zombies.
No, Resident Evil zombies have always been their totally own thing because they're mutated by this virus that isn't anywhere done mutating. I mean, it's
because they're sounding like Blade 2 vampires.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of on that level. This takes a lot from Resident Evil 4 and 5 in a lot of its imagery and a lot of the concepts and the zombie design here. I mean, there's still the generic zombies out there, but then there's this whole new breed of super zombies running around that have weird tentacles and shit growing out of them. And then, of course, I know this really bugged Corey. And I don't know why. I was like, really? This is different from the games or previous movies. How? With this giant zombie with this huge, ridiculous battle axe, like obviously specialty made.
Yeah.
There's no other. It's not like he ripped it off a building or something, because it would serve no other purpose, and no human could possibly lift it. So you're like, what the fuck is that? He shows up out of nowhere, starts bashing in the gate, and it's this whole thing like it's a boss. It's a boss fight. There's a big boss fight, but he's not like the main villain. He doesn't. They never even give him a name or a title, or there's no sort of a series of introductions. There's no history for him. But man, it's the Resident Evil movie. It's an adaptation of the video game, and as such, it's exactly like the video games. That's what happens in those games. They get these big mutated bosses out of nowhere that you don't know anything about. You kill them after emptying just thousands of tons of rounds of ammunition into them, and you just move on from there. Nobody goes, wow, I wonder what that was.
Well, see, I can kind of see Corey's point in that in a video game, that's just wow. I mean, you're all about the action, how to survive. That's the way it works. But a movie is all about story and explanations. So some sort of explanation about this guy, especially like I would have been with you, but the way you described the axe, I mean, yeah, outside of it being part of the outside facade for a Saxon pub or something, it just doesn't seem like, hey, come on, you got to explain what
and
the
even
fuck
then
this
you
is
think
all
it
about.
would be like, like plaster of Paris or something, if
Yeah.
it was like right out there. It wouldn't do much good. But no, this is this big, nasty, heavy thing. I understand what you're saying. However, we've already seen 3 movies worth of this style of storytelling. So to expect something different at this point, I mean, what's that whole thing about insanity,
True. Expected a different result. Yeah. Well, it does crack me up how often Corey does like, hey, man, I don't care about the story. I just want to see some ass kicking and some special effects and some great action. And then when he gets that with no story, he's like, yeah, I couldn't get into it. Sorry. You got to have a story.
He always does do that. I agree with him sometimes, but there's something about this series. There's something about the way that it just doesn't give a fuck.
Man, if you love Resident Evil so much, why don't you marry it?
All right, stop doing your Corey impression. Although I know he wish he could be here to chastise me properly. But it's just so goddamn stupid, but it's so inventive about it at the same time. I mean, it's stealing from everyone. But there was this Chinese film that came out years ago called Redeemer that I fell in love with that was like just stole so blatantly from like 8 major Hollywood series. And just didn't give a fuck. And that's what I admired about it. I was like, you know what? It's not even trying to cover it up. I think part of that is like this love of like the whole of the better Roger Corman films,
Sure.
where it would do exactly that same thing. It would say, yes, we're stealing heavily, but we're winking and nodding to you while we're doing it. And we're not just doing a repeat of those films. We're just stealing concepts, special effects, and ideas from it. We're actually presenting you with some seriously fucked up stuff. I mean, go watch Galaxy of Terror. Yeah, the first 30 minutes you're like, this is just an Alien ripoff, but by the end you're like, I don't know what the fuck that was.
Okay.
And I feel like the Resident Evil series is kind of like that. It's like, yeah, it's stealing really blatantly from everyone, but who knows what the hell they're actually trying to do. It's a kitchen sink of a film of sci-fi and horror elements.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. So you're 4 films deep in this now. Rank them, favorite to least favorite. Or least to favorite.
And you know what? It's funny that this list is definitely based on a lot of retrospective looking back, because after the second film I would have said, the second film is a distant afterthought, and obviously it's just going to get worse. And I really like the first film. Now the first film is my second least favorite.
Okay.
I would say that number 1 is between this and the third one, because the third one was surprised me. I think it surprised a lot of people how good it was. Even so, it's still a B film.
Sure.
It was a little more down to earth. It focused a little bit more on being scary. And this is my second favorite.
Okay.
It really is. I think there's some genuine parts that made me jump, which I really did not expect at all. And they were cheap, but they were well planned cheap.
Yeah.
It was like like something. It was a jump scare, but then it was something I totally didn't see coming, which seems
Okay.
rare these days. I'm usually totally prepared for that.
Right. You're sitting there going,
Yeah, they found moments to get me that I did not expect to be gotten at, whereas most films telegraph that shit for like 5 minutes ahead of time. So, I mean, it is what it is, and if you hate the other Resident Evil films, I promise you, you're going to hate this one too. But if you liked them, if you're like me and you're like, you know what, I would never defend this film. I can't get in an argument with you because technically you would win. But I like them, enjoy them anyway, then yeah, you're going to like this one too.
All right, you know me. I liked the first one, hated the second one, couldn't even finish it.
Yeah.
Didn't see the third one. Where do you think I would come in on this one?
I don't know, because you didn't see the third one. And that's honestly what it depends on.
That's where the big swing vote.
Although Corey liked the third one and apparently hated this one.
Really?
And I like the second one, but I accept that it's so much more horrible than the first one is. It's by far the worst film in the series.
Okay.
Yeah, like by a long, long shot. I don't know, it's just also grand guignol and silly and loud and flashy. I mean, I guess it's Saw mixed with Fast and the Furious series. There's something appealing about both of them in a really terrible way.
All right.
Yeah.
It's enough. You sold it. You got me curious enough.
It's a matinee for me, but seriously, folks, I am not telling you it's a matinee for you. You know already whether or not it is. I've laid it out for you whether or not this is for you. And if you don't feel like that's you, don't come running to me screaming because you hated it and I suck. I told you not to see it. But if you're one of those other guys, then yeah, we'll commiserate later and say, man, Corey didn't know what the fuck he's talking about.